What's going on, guys? Happy Halloween. We hope you all made it home safely from your costume parties and taking your kids trick-or-treating. And we hope you get the chance to wind down with Dustin and myself on another edition of The Bare Minimum. Dustin, what's going on?
What up, man? How we doing?
Doing all right, man. I mean, it was probably the most uneventful Halloween I've ever had in my life.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Oh, I just went to
You
work. I
didn't paint
came
your
home.
face and dance with horses
I
this
took,
Halloween?
no, not this one. No, not this time around. Yeah. Funny guy.
Okay, so I don't know. I worked all night, man. It's a busy night in the pizza business, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Life is good. I didn't get to go trick or treating with my daughter, but I will get to steal some of her candy, and we're gonna talk about that a little later on.
Yes, we are.
Yes, sir.
We don't even got Bruce in the building, man.
Man, we got nothing. It's Halloween night,
This
so
is
maybe.
depressing.
I mean, Bruce and his fake mustache couldn't join us tonight. God darn it!
Jeez, Bruce.
You're letting us
Anyways,
down.
Dustin, how's your Halloween? How's besides a busy day at work?
Yeah, man, that was it. I've been working all day. Yeah, just got home and said hi to the wife. Came in here and said hi to my other wife. You.
Oh, that's sweet.
We're dropping the ball here, man. Get us moving.
All right, man. Yeah. Sorry, guys. So let's talk about Thursday night. The Thursday night recap, guys, between the New York Jets and the Houston Texans. What a one for the record books, Dustin.
Yeah, record amount of
If you were
people
able to
going down injured in a game, dude.
Yeah,
They stopped the clock every two plays for somebody who was laying on the ground injured. It was ridiculous. It was awful.
If you were able to stay awake through that one, guys, you know that the Jets did beat the Houston Texans. I will say this: they can remove the Jets' offense from the milk carton, man. I think
Yeah.
Devontae Adams had close to 100 yards and a touchdown. I think Garrett Wilson had 2 touchdowns, maybe 100 yards. I don't know. And then I think Breece Hall also had a good game. So
Breece Hall did, yeah. Here, let me give it to you from the perspective of someone who bet on the Texans, because
not giving me nothing.
I thought it was a sure bet. The Jets don't get any of that offense going without a bullshit call from the referees in that game, man. That defensive holding that they called on Stingley, it was 4th down. The Jets were turning the ball over. They had nothing going. They called this ticky-tack call. That's what led to their first touchdown in that third quarter, man. And then they just kind of blew it out from there. I mean, the Texans.
Yeah, Dustin, we could honestly do an entire show on the officiating in the NFL this year.
Yeah, you know what's frustrating to me is when referees put themselves above the game, or they insert themselves into the game needlessly. It feels self-important, and it just
That's always been annoying, but it's been egregiously. Even beyond that, it's been egregiously bad this year. Like, did you see the game where the Patriots? I forget what receiver it was. Maybe Polk caught the game-winning touchdown. Might have been against the Jets, man. And they said he got as he's falling
last week?
out of he's falling. No, this was weeks ago, man.
Yeah, no, that wasn't against
I sent you guys the play in a text and said I did not know. I know it's not even on the news that the Patriots were completely robbed. Well, whoever it was caught a touchdown, taps both feet, man, clearly possesses the ball. They review it after calling it no touchdown. They review it and still call it a no touchdown. I mean, like, this video was shared online.
Yeah,
on social media platforms, and just thousands of people like I don't understand. Like, how is this not? Hey, we got somebody.
Yeah, I saw that.
Make yourself known.
I don't know if it's a good strategy or a bad strategy to call out the fact that we have no audience and then we get one person.
It's a good strategy for us. This is the bare minimum, and that's how we do things.
Yeah, we got a bare minimum amount of people watching. Hey, whoever you are, identify yourself in the chat if you got the time and the inclination. We'd love to talk to you. It's going to be a fun show. Man, I don't know. The game was boring. A lot of injuries, a lot of stoppages.
Yeah, we're all tired of watching the Jets. I think that's the third or fourth primetime game this year, man.
And now with that win, we're gonna keep hearing about the Jets, and like I'm sick of hearing about the Jets. To be honest, they got a lot of talent, but a lot of dysfunction. They tried to lose that game. They had a touchdown in the first half that Crowley just drops as he's walking in the end zone, and it turns into a fucking touchback for the Texans. That should have been a touchdown for the Jets. It's just like they're just not a good, well run organization. They're not a disciplined.
Hey, we know a thing or two about that.
Yeah, we do. It's very and Sean pointed that out in our group text earlier. It reminds him of Eberflus. But the difference there is that Ulbrich is an interim head coach. They've already fired their coach. So I mean, like, it looks like they're trying to get their stuff together. That win puts them to 3-5, man. They're still alive in the playoffs in the AFC with that record. So good for them. But like, I'm sick of the Jets, dude. I'm sick of the Jets. And honestly, the Texans are awfully boring without their receivers, man. They're a hard offense to watch. Joe Mixon was the only thing that they really had.
Man,
I don't been bad for a couple of weeks in a row now, man.
I don't know if you remember. I said, I think this is more than injuries, man. I said I could see the Texans coming back and having a bad season, not just worse than last year, but a bad season. And I like their record is good. I think they're 6-2.
They were 5-2 going into this game.
Yeah, they're
now
6-2.
No, they're 5-3.
Sorry, 5-3. But they don't look like they're going to be in the playoffs at the end of the season. The only reason they might be is because their division is terrible.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a problem for them to make the playoffs, Brandon. I mean, they're weathering the storm.
Jacksonville's dead in the water. Tennessee's a joke. And
yep. So you got the Colts, who the Texans just beat last week. The Texans have beat them twice already.
Joe Flacco, man, who knows?
That'll make a difference for that team for sure. I don't want to dive too deep into the AFC South.
No, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, we've said all we need to say about Thursday night, man. Thursday night was boring.
It was a boring game. I like football on Halloween. That's cool. Hopefully we can keep that going. But
yeah, let's move on to the Bears news.
Bears news.
Guys, before injuries, we always do news. Injuries come later, guys, even though it is news. But Bears news this week, just still a whole lot. It's just the aftermath of all this stuff that we heard Monday morning, waking up. You know what I mean? And as fans, guys, and analysts, myself and Dustin, I've gotten at least a lot more information than I had a few days ago, and a lot more kind of time to
process and
process what the hell is going on. And then I've been listening to people, former players' perspectives and former coaches' perspectives, and just
everyone's got an opinion on this Bears coaching staff, bro. Everyone.
Well, and not just the coaching staff, Tyreek Stevenson too. Like this is. So Eberflus came out today and said, me and Stevenson had a good conversation, but we keep it in house. That says to me, nothing's going to happen. He talked to him. Nothing's going to happen. And I don't know, with a guy who might already be losing his locker room, I don't know if that's the best decision for him. And then you got to
hold on real quick, Brandon. That depends on how the players are approaching it with Tyreek too. Because if the players have Tyreek's back and they're not wanting him to be punished, then how do you lose the locker room if you don't punish him?
If you take that guy out for a half of football, man, the players aren't going to condemn you. But I'll say this, man.
But also, what difference does it make?
How does Ryan Poles view it?
Well, how Ryan Poles views it better be really involved in this decision.
The lack of action. Like, how does Poles think this guy just does, like, is I want to know, but what I was asking on the Hassel hangover never really came out the way I wanted to. Is Poles regretful of this decision, like inside his own head, even in the slightest? Do you think?
I don't think
this guy, because like you have to think, man.
Okay.
You were if Flus is the wrong guy, you were so close to getting it right. You know what I mean? Because Poles, I believe this. Brian Poles wants a new Chicago Bears. He wants the past behind him. He wants to forget about all that, about the offense and never having the quarterback and never having like a team, like you said, Dustin, last week, with an identity that lasts a decade. You know what I mean? You know who you're getting when you play the Bears. Like, the head coach would be the one piece he got wrong, and that's just such a vital piece, man.
Yeah, And I mean, I don't think he regrets it, to answer your question. I don't think he's that type of person. I don't think he's that type of dude that's gonna view it in the sample size that we're viewing it as fans. I mean, we're about to be finishing the second quarter, as Lovie Smith used to say. We're about to be finishing the second quarter of the season, and I guess that doesn't even apply anymore. You can't even break it down that way because they got 17 games now. So it's like, how do you even approach that as if you're Lovie Smith now? It's like your whole theme is gone.
You can't say quarter
You
anymore.
can't say we're in the first quarter. We're moving. We're 2-2 in the first quarter. But they could be 5-3 after this game. So after eight games in the season, about the halfway point of the season, they could be 2 games over 500. I don't think Ryan Poles is looking at it the way we're looking at it as fans, man. I don't think he can. He don't get paid to look at it that way. So I think do I think he made the right decision in retaining Eberflus? No. When it happened, I did not think that he did. And I had a big problem with it. And I think it might be the decision that comes back to bite him in the ass. I don't know that he regrets it right now or he's having second thoughts about it. He can't afford to. He's got to get his team ready to go. He's got to make sure that they perform. So
you also said something last week, man, or earlier this week, sorry, where you said there's no way that Poles fires this guy in season.
Yeah,
you don't think if he came out and lost Arizona and New England,
no,
Eric Washington would be the head coach of this football team?
No. I mean, that's an interesting thought process, I guess, and I don't know who
that's the guy who I believe will be a head coach. It wouldn't be Waldron.
I'll say this for sure in my mind: there's no way Eberflus gets fired this season. Like I've said multiple times, man, the biggest decision that Poles has made in his career so far as the GM of the Chicago Bears is to retain Eberflus, not to hire him, because I don't know how much that decision was his, but when he had the chance to move on from a guy like Eberflus,
he made it his guy. He doubled down.
Yeah, and when he had a chance to move on when he had a chance to move on from Eberflus to a guy like Belichick, to a guy like Harbaugh, Vrabel, these guys that were out there that are like culture setters for teams, that are real CEOs of a football team, man, when you talk about a head coach, and he passed on that and stuck with Eberflus, he made him his guy, Brandon. So like now he's got to live with it, and I don't think he's going to fire him.
We talked about last week. We talked about like if Eberflus won a Super Bowl, does that make Poles like the smartest man? You know what I mean? Out of all the Chicago fans,
it does.
Analyst, players, base. But the other side of that coin is,
if he doesn't,
everyone told you lose a bunch of games this year because of Flus. Does that make Ryan Poles the biggest idiot?
It's a major blotch on his resume if that's what happens, Brandon. It is. It's something you have to judge.
Me and Dustin know Poles ain't going anywhere, so I'm not even that conversation's not. We're not bringing that up because if Flus fails, Poles sticks around. We know that, but
Poles will get one more chance at a coach.
And I would love to see Poles hire his guy because I agree with you, Dustin. I do think.
Well, this is his guy now, Brandon. He made the choice.
Yeah, it is. But you're right. So negate that because like once he doubled it, man, for sure.
Yeah, he went back. He went back to that well, and now he's got to ride with it. And if it pays off, he looks like a genius. And if it doesn't, a lot of people are going to be saying, "I told you so, man." And that's going to be something he's going to have to live with. It's a tough decision.
And in regards to the Tyreek Stevenson, it's the Stevenson thing, man. Sorry, I told you earlier today. I heard Dave Wanstead on the radio, and he said, as a head coach, he would pull the players aside. He would say, "Once I'm convinced, and your teammates are convinced that you're in this with the rest of us, that's when you'll play again." So, I mean, he's not talking about suspension. He's talking about like prove it. And Stevenson is a tough kid. He plays hard. I don't.
That's kind of what I was going to say, man. For Wanstead to say that, like, that's all well and good, but who's to say Tyree Stevenson is not that person right now?
Well, Dustin, the 4 seconds of live play that he didn't fucking give a shit.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if we could all be judged if we were all going to be judged off of our worst 4 seconds in life, bro, I don't think any of us want that. I don't want to be judged off of my worst.
No, worst. Yeah, I don't know. You're pitching that a strange way. I'm going to disagree with you here, man. Like you. How many players have that 4 seconds in their career?
It's very rare.
How many
But
players have a split second of unfocused time on the field
a
during
shit ton,
live
a shit
plays?
ton, a shit ton, a shit ton, man. And unfocused could mean a lot of things. If you're talking about is it as on
I mean,
display
like
and on stage as what Stevenson
back
was? No,
turned to a play.
no. But a lack of focus
This
happens
is a
on
very
every play
weird.
for
It's
these
a
guys,
very
man.
weird situation, and it can't be. It's unique, what happened, and it can't be. I don't think it can be treated like any other situation. I think it needs to be treated with a unique discipline. Like I think like a quarter of no football or something. Like you got to
Or
prove
or riding a
Eberflus.
unicycle on the sidelines. That's pretty unique.
But in all seriousness, man, like what I believe that you got to do something to say something to somebody, whether it be your GM or the players or your other coaches. Like, hey, man, I will. What's going on, Shorty?
Shorty, what
What's
up,
going
dude?
on, man? Bear
It's our
down,
first
brother.
comment of the day. Hell yeah, keep them coming. Keep them
I
coming. Get
think,
involved in the
I
chat.
think, I think, I think Matt Eberflus needs to do something. I really do. I think I've seen coaches do more for less, man. So like
You know
this,
what? I liked what Darius said on our Monday show on CSP. Hit him in his pockets. I like that. I mean, in terms of finding
well, I
them,
mean,
making them
even Jair
understand.
Alexander got
That's what
suspended
matters
by
to
the
these guys.
Jair
Yeah.
Alexander got suspended by the Packers for going on the field during the coin toss. Like this is more egregious than that to me. If you ask me, a guy presenting himself as a captain is not as big a deal as a guy not being involved on the most important play of a football
I
game.
do want to say this real quick since we got Shorty in here. I did go subscribe to your Bear Country and the podcast, and
Yeah, yeah, I was at
checked
work
out
and
a couple
I
shows. Yeah,
listened to some of it after
yeah,
you sent me the text.
bro.
And
I mean,
those guys are funny, man.
yeah, they're awesome.
I like what they're doing.
So
It's
yeah,
good stuff.
thank you for
Shorty,
joining
thanks
us.
for turning us on to that.
Yeah,
That's
man.
it's good stuff, man.
Yeah, and Shorty's good on there too. So yeah, man, I agree with you, Stevenson. There needs to be some kind of discipline, whether or not the players in the locker room feel like he needs to be held accountable by being, suspended for a game or whatever that is.
Well, they're not head
I don't
coaches,
know. I
Dustin.
don't know. Huh?
They're not head coaches. That's the difference.
No,
And
but
it
you
doesn't
you talked
matter.
to
It
Brandon.
doesn't
You talked
matter.
about them losing the locker room, bro.
Yeah,
He's not going to lose the locker room to
but you
not
know what,
discipline a guy
Dustin?
that the
I
players
think
don't want him to discipline.
no,
He's not
no,
going
no,
to lose
no.
the locker room to that.
Hold on, man.
He won't.
Sometimes the coach does something not there we go. There
Bear
we
down.
go. Bear down, country. Yeah.
Bears Country Productions.
Oh, sometimes it's the things that a team doesn't want. Sometimes the decision a coach makes in which the team doesn't agree with is what dictates them for being the head coach, man. Like they're the
No,
iron
for sure.
fist.
He's
You
got
know
to
what I
make a
mean?
tough
Like, hey,
decision.
my team doesn't want to see Tyreek sit down for a half, but I don't give a shit because I'm in charge of this team. And as far as I'm concerned, he let his team down. So
Bro,
they'll understand. You know what I mean? One day they'll see it my way. They'll understand he put himself before a team.
I think they'll
That's why.
understand immediately. I
Yeah.
do. I
But
just don't
like,
know that there's a fear of of him losing the locker room over it. I said immediately, man, that night that game happened, Tyree Stevenson should be suspended for a game.
oh well,
Now,
no,
when I said
let's dive into
so,
that. I think there's a few things that occurred this week in which Flus is going to start to lose this locker room. And that's all Flus is holding on to, guys. That's
the
it.
few things, are you referring to Cole Kmet calling out the way that the players practice? Jalen Johnson saying that when they make mistakes in practice, they don't go back.
Jalen
Um,
Johnson's words were like a dagger, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, DJ Moore saying, I got to keep it in house, but I don't apologize for what I said. It was the truth. I mean, yeah, these guys have come out and very publicly questioned their head coach, and that's what will lose him the locker room. And it seems like it
Oh,
already is.
that's the first sign
Oh
for
yeah,
sure. Because the whole thing, the whole pitch about Flus, anytime anybody says anything positive to you about Matt Eberflus,
he
it
won the locker
includes
room.
it
Yeah,
always follows, right? This is the thing that always follows it. It's like, oh, he's a players coach. The players love him. He's got that locker room in check. Like,
yeah. But if he loses that, what does he have?
and
Yeah, yeah.
and Kyle said it last week, and I agree. Is how much of the locker room is a head coach's place, anyways. Players run locker rooms, man. You know what I mean? Your captain, Caleb Williams, and Jalen Johnson and Cole Kmet, guys like those run that locker room. Matt Eberflus is supposed to make the decisions that put this team in the best place to win. And as soon as you stop doing that,
Yeah.
it
And we
gets
talked
ugly.
about
It
that.
gets ugly quick.
We talked about that with him being a player's coach versus, and what does that mean? I mean, does that mean that you just let the players get away with everything? Does that mean that you're just their buddy? No,
No,
it means
I
that
think
you
it's
hold them
it's
accountable,
quite the
right?
opposite.
So
Yeah,
that they know
absolutely.
you give a shit about their development as players and as people.
When
You
you
hold them
and you know
accountable
they give
to
a shit about
standards. That's a player's coach to
winning.
me.
They give a shit about winning. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes.
Because when a player does something like what Tyreek Stevenson did, and you don't have any action, it almost begs the question, man. How much does Eberflus give a shit about what happened in the final play of that game, which might have dictated a win or loss?
Well,
I've said it before. I said it earlier this week. I think if Stevenson's in that play, and when I say in, I mean involved, like his
like
head is in
actually
the
with his head in the
fucking
play.
game, I think he makes a play. I think he makes a difference. I think he's got Noah Brown erased because that was his job. That was his head. They said box Noah Brown out. If Stevenson's on that play, Noah Brown's probably not even in contention of catching that ball because Stevenson is a good football player. But
Now,
you
you
gotta,
did say you didn't want to get into this for 20 minutes, and that's kind of what we did anyways.
yeah.
But Matt Eberflus did come out, and I guess he was hearing the rumblings of him not taking accountability is what it comes across like to me. But Matt Eberflus did come out and say, it starts with him. The problems for this team start with him, and they will end with him. So, I mean, that was good to see him come out with that. But then we had Shane Waldron come out and say he had no regrets about the Doug Kramer play, which was the worst call any of us have ever seen situationally in football, to be honest. Shane Waldron would have done it again, basically, is what he said, right?
I mean, I actually finally for the first time today got to see that interview. That's not how he
That
didn't
was
say
taken
that
out of
outright.
context in your mind?
I think it was a little bit.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
he kind of, I don't know, he defended the decision, but when asked if he'd make it again, he didn't really say yes or no, because I think he knows he wouldn't. I think Shane Waldron, listen, man, that was a bad fucking call. And the call where DeAndre Swift lost 12 yards against the
That,
Colts was or against
and the
the
play calls
Texans.
in that game to start
But
the
I
first
think,
half, first three
I
quarters
think,
were not good either.
I think I can say this earnestly. This guy has learned from his mistakes. Now, is he a repeat offender? Yes, absolutely. Because what he did with Kramer reminds me of when Swift lost 13 yards when we needed one.
Got cute instead
Yeah,
of playing football. Yeah.
but do I think this guy's throughout the season going to fix things like those the same as a player would? Turnovers or the coaches learn the same as players. Man, I do believe Waldron. I think by the time this team is playing divisional games, this offense is going to be a serious problem. I still believe, Dustin, I've been saying that on this podcast. I'm not going to change it. I believe this offense becomes almost as aggressive as the defense is. I think that they're a team that people have to worry about.
I think that that's a good segue to the injury report because you're talking about this offense and it performing well. But let's talk about who didn't participate in practice today, man. Braxton
Yeah.
Jones did not participate in practice today. Tevin Jenkins did not participate in practice today after participating yesterday. So that's never a good sign. And then Karan Amagaji, who played backup left tackle
He's not playing,
in
man.
that game,
Flus talked
did not
about him.
participate. And then so obviously Jaquan Brisker still hasn't practiced. This is since October 7th now. This guy has not participated in any football activity with this concussion, man. And we talked about this in the last couple weeks in terms of this could be concerning for Bears fans and for Jaquan Brisker and his career. These head injuries are taken seriously, man.
I said this a couple weeks ago, and man, this guy played a half of football after the concussion occurred.
Yeah.
Like
So how many more concussive hits did his brain
that
take with the way he plays football?
it's
Yes.
not good.
And you see guys get, and that just brings another thought to my head, man. You see guys getting pulled out of games for just showing the slightest of symptoms. You would think Brisker would have been pulled out of that game and checked for a concussion immediately after a hit like that, dude. You would think that, and he just wasn't. But he's still out. Kyler Gordon with the hamstring is still out. And Mercedes Lewis is taking his routine day off. So those were the did not participates.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, man. Brisker was the guy I expected to be back this week. I thought this is where I kind of pinned on a calendar when he had the concussion. This is the week that I said in our group text, this is the week I think he returns.
Him not being back is concerning.
And I did say this on this podcast repeatedly, man. This is 3 major concussions in 2.5 seasons. For a very young player, these are the kind of decisions. These are kind of things that force decisions, man, that make players
if they
retire.
Continue to happen. Yeah.
Who was the linebacker on the Niners? Small guy.
Patrick Willis?
No, white guy, retired really young.
Oh yeah, out of Wisconsin. Yeah, I'm forgetting his name right now.
I don't even know if he was drafted, but he ended up being a stud.
No, he was drafted out of Wisconsin. Yeah, I'm blanking on his name, but yeah, he retired very early.
He retired at like 24. I mean, the guy retired because like it was just too much. Because when you're thinking about your future, your family, your life, man, your well-being versus your career,
winning a football game
when you've already made a lot of money, it's a very simple decision, I would imagine, for most. But
for Brisker, I don't know if it's that simple because he hasn't gotten a second contract yet. So I mean, that might be important to him. But I mean, hopefully he comes back. It's not going to be this week, man. He's not. I mean, we always say every week, man, because we get to do this on Thursday, which is a good time to do it with these injuries because going into Friday, man, it's like if you don't participate, you're most likely not playing on Sunday. And if Brisker don't get in tomorrow, which don't look like he's anywhere close to doing so, we're going to see another game played with Elijah Hicks at safety and Jaquan Brisker sitting out. And Kyler Gordon is a huge piece of this defense, man. And when they don't have those two guys on the field, their pass defense is it's not as good. Just plain and simple. And that's concerning going into a game against Kyler Murray. It just is. So, and then we haven't even talked about the fact that half of our fucking offensive line is injured and not participating.
I don't any of the guys that you.
That's not good. That's not good. Man.
Any of the people you named on that injury list, I really don't expect to play.
So we don't expect Braxton Jones to play. Tevin Jenkins. So then what are we looking at, Brandon, with what patchwork offensive line? Because here, we didn't even mention the fact that earlier this week, and it was kind of just glossed over, Bill Murray got put on IR. He's probably done for the season.
You know what else? You know what else is glossed over? Earlier in the week, Larry Borum was on the injury report.
Was it?
Was earlier this week.
Well, now he's a full participant. He was a full participant today, so he's
Does Larry Borum play left tackle?
Oh God!
So you can leave. So you can leave. So you can leave the rest of that line kind of intact.
I'll say this, man. I would much rather see Darnell Wright move to left tackle and put Borum at right tackle, if that were my choices, And the Bears have been very against that. But I've always felt, man, you take a tackle in the top 10 picks, then that guy should be a left tackle in my mind. And if Darnell Wright is as good as he's supposed to be, then he should be able to hold himself up on that end too in an emergency situation. Other than that, man, you're talking about putting Pryor at left tackle, and then you're putting Nate Davis back on this starting offensive line, who we've all said has been a contributor to this team playing losing football. Nate Davis, you've called him a cancer, Brandon. You've called him a cancer. So, like, do we put him back in here? And what does that look like? So then that's Darnell Wright, Nate Davis, Coleman Shelton. Ryan Bates is a limited participant in practice, so hopefully he's healthy. He can slide into that left guard to cover for Tevin Jenkins. And then you're putting Matt Pryor at left tackle. How do you feel about that? I don't feel great about any of this, man, in terms of going into a crucial game, like a must-win game for your season to keep its hopes alive as far as I'm concerned. And you're putting out that offensive line. I don't know. I have not seen a report of what they plan to put out there as a starting lineup in terms of this offensive line, but we just broke down a couple of options, and none of them sound good to me, man. None of them sound good to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Ryan Bates is available, that you kind of have to plug him in, don't you?
Yeah, well, no, of course. And I mean, Bates is the logical guy to put in, but again, you're only covering one spot there. You got
Well,
three
I think you would.
spots.
I think you would. I would imagine you're going to go Pryor, Bates, Shelton, Davis, Wright.
I mean, I guess that's the best that they can put out there, but we all didn't want to see Nate Davis play another snap for this football team. We were hoping they could trade him for a
And they did.
washing
They
machine.
did. And this didn't really make the news. I actually kind of had to search for this, and I don't know how I found it. The Bears did sign an offensive lineman this week, guys, from the Los Angeles Chargers.
From the San Fernando Chargers.
From the San Fernando whale's vagina.
Which is German for a whale's vagina.
Yeah.
Okay, Montez Sweat was a limited participant too. So who's the offensive lineman they signed? Because I'm not.
I don't know his name, man. I will find that for you right now, Dustin.
Well, thanks for bringing him up and not knowing his name, Brandon.
Well, who knows the name of a practice squad?
I don't know. If you don't know the name, probably don't bring him up because we can't really talk about it. But yeah, Ryan Bates was a limited participant, and Montez Sweat was a limited participant today. So I mean, the Bears' injury woes are stacking up hardcore. And when you lose a game like they lost on Sunday to the Commanders, man, and you're going into a huge game for your season.
His name is Austin Pleasance.
All right. A Halloween connection there. Donald Pleasance played Dr. Loomis in the Halloween movies. So maybe there's
right.
Halloween luck there.
Yeah, Austin Pleasance.
Our
nightmare.
Donald Pleasance is... I shot him 6 times. I shot him 6 times. Anyways, so yeah, injuries are a huge concern for this team going into this week. And Brandon, I don't even know. I can't even put my finger on the pulse of what I expect to happen. I just feel like I might throw Tevin Jenkins out there hurt just because, like, who the hell else are we putting out there? I mean, everyone talked about how bad Kieran Amagachi performed, but he was a better option than what we have right now, as far as I'm concerned.
The Bears are going to do what they think. They're going to put out the best five players they think they have. But let's get into how we think that affects this football game.
Well, I mean, it obviously is a concern when it comes to pressure being allowed onto Caleb Williams, and it's a huge concern with that. I mean, if it's me and I'm going into a game against this Cardinals team with a banged up offensive line, I want to run the football, because if I got new pieces coming into my offensive line, the easiest thing to do is push forward, go put a hat on somebody and move them out of the way to open up some running lanes. You know, the pass protection is going to be the hardest thing for them to get
Dave
down.
Dave Wannstedt, by the way, also said, I would like to see Karan play some run downs, some just like, and I know you're kind of selling him, man, but he said he wants to see him in on rundowns. So,
well, we're not going to see him at all this Sunday. It's looking like.
But that's defending your point that
that's the easier thing for these guys to do.
Any offensive lineman playing for the run it's going to be an easier job for you for sure than in the NFL than it would be for trying to pass protect. So if you come out against a team, so let's start getting into this, man, because if you come out against a team like the Cardinals that are allowing what was it 4.6
yards per carry is what they're allowing.
Yeah,
yes.
You're going to want to run the football against this team. So if you have to ask your offensive line to run block as opposed to pass protect, your depth pieces should be able to do that. And Ryan Bates, guys, remember, this kid was a 5th round pick traded for this guy. So like if Bates comes in with the ability to play guard. If he comes in to play guard, because Shelton's healthy, Shelton's going to be center. If Bates comes in to play guard, we trade a 5th round pick. This guy better go out there and bust ass. Like, I better see some impressive things from Ryan Bates, because he's playing the position. Not only is he going to play, after this 5th-round pick was traded for him. Not only is this guy going to play, he's not playing center, where we all kind of questioned whether or not he could. He's playing the position in which he actually had a good
That's his
PFF grade.
primary position. Yeah.
So, like, I want to see this guy come out, and who knows, man? Maybe do you put Bates next to Wright and put Pryor next to Borum or whoever's going to play left tackle?
I mean, no, I don't. I want to move people around as little as possible. I mean, Pryor is performing admirably at the right guard.
So Dustin, let me ask you this: is the best line that the Chicago Bears can present on Sunday Darnell Wright playing left tackle?
In my mind, it is, but I don't think the Bears are going to do that. If they were going to do that, I think they would have done it by now. I think they want him at right tackle, and that's what it is. And that's why I had an issue kind of with that draft pick in the first place. Not because Darnell Wright's not a good player. He's a great player, I think. But I don't think you draft a right tackle in the top 10 of the draft. I just don't think
we talked about that after that pick. It's not very common.
No,
there was some left tackles still on the board. And then we're not even going to dive into this, guys, but to me, you took a right tackle in the first round and you took your 3 tech in the second round, and I feel like you could have
done the opposite.
Taken Jalen Carter and then taken your right tackle, which, guys, is not the hardest position to play on the offensive line in the NFL. You could have taken that guy. Could have taken that guy probably somewhere in the second round in that draft.
Yeah, the value just didn't equate. Now we're talking about the Arizona Cardinals pass rush. I just pulled a Collinsworth there. Pass rush.
Go again. twice on the spare minimum show.
Yeah. But I mean, their sack percentage is 5.73%. That's 27th in the league. They don't get after the quarterback very well. I think they only have 11 sacks on the season. So if you are hurting at offensive line, maybe it's kind of a blessing in disguise that it is this week against a team that doesn't really get after the quarterback very well. I mean, that's a positive, I guess. I mean, I feel like we're stretching. I feel like we're reaching for shit, man, because like it's never a good thing when your offensive line is already questionable, man. We've had questions about this offensive line all off season, and then this whole season, and then you start to get the injury bug with that offensive line, and you got to plug in new players. That is shaky, dude.
Hey, real quick, guys, who's ever watching this show, please comment on this show, guys. Throw something in the chat.
Yeah. We had Mr. Shorty in here for a second, but it is what it is, man. We got to do it on our own this week. So it's just very concerning, man. I mean, like I said, the only thing that I can have a little faith in is that they allow 4.6 yards per carry, and they don't get after the quarterback very well. So you really tighten them up with the run. You open up that defense with the run, and then you start throwing some play action, which should give some more time to Caleb just in and of itself. And you make it easy on these guys. The thing here, O'Sullivan was talking about it on the QB school, the difference in how the Commanders approached that game and how the Bears approached that game this past Sunday, man. And they made it really easy on Jaden Daniels. Cliff Kingsbury does that very well. You design plays that get receivers open and you hit them on their first read versus asking a guy to drop back, a rookie quarterback, and go through multiple reads, which Caleb does at one of the highest rates in the NFL. And with this offensive line that's kind of porous, that's going to lead to mistakes. That's going to lead to bad plays. So especially when you have a shaky offensive line going into this week, it needs to be first read. Get the ball out. I wanted them to come out with a quick passing game to start this past week's game, and that's what they need to do this week, man.
So how do you feel about no huddle offense coming out?
I mean, I've told you I'm open to it, man. I'm open to whatever will get this team scoring some points early in the football game because they have not done.
Like, let's say for the first drive they come out in no huddle offense. Do you believe if the Bears score early, let's say first drive, they'll kind of retain that momentum throughout a game? Because when they do score, it seems like they start to light fire, right?
I don't know that that's a guarantee, man. To be honest, I do know that when the Bears get in the red zone, they score touchdowns.
Well, so they got to find a way. And I don't think there's been a point in this season yet where they were scoring. Like it was like a high caliber offense performance followed by dud. You know what I mean? There's never been a game where they were like firing on all cylinders and then just kind of flattened out. every game they've either come out of the gates, well, like third
No, even
drive.
against the Jaguars, man, they came
Yeah,
out
third
stunted.
drive. Yeah, it came out
Yeah,
flat.
yeah.
But I mean, like they've never been hot and then cold. It's always kind of been.
Yeah, I mean,
And
once they got hot in that Commanders game, that carried on. They had 3 drives where they drove it straight into
right. So what I'm
the
asking is
Commanders'
like if
red
they
zone.
do the no huddle offense early and they get that rhythm, does that mean for the rest of the game they execute their offense, man?
I mean, it can't hurt, man. It's just with my only concern with the hurry up, and I've told you this before, is like if you get into it too much, then you're tiring your guys out. It'll
No,
help
and I'm
Caleb.
not, and I'm
It'll
not,
help
I'm not
Caleb.
an advocate of continuing. I'm talking about like maybe the first 6 or 7 plays of the game, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once you, and I do want to say this, man. As much grief as I've given Shane Waldron, and Matty Eberflus deserves everything we've given him all week, and he's
He's
got a
the head
lot to
coach.
prove,
That's
and
his
he's
job.
the seat gets hotter, man, and he's got a
Yeah.
lot to prove moving forward. Shane Waldron came out pretty aggressive, and Caleb, I don't know if it was nerves, just wasn't making the throws. So we can talk about that Kramer play all day, but the way Waldron came out, if Caleb's connecting on those throws, did the way Waldron come out, was that Waldron or Caleb or a combination of the two? Like
What do you mean? Here, like I just said, man, when you're Cliff
Waldron's
Kings,
game plan early was Caleb throwing the ball, but Caleb, and he had receivers and he was missing them. So how much of that is on Shane Wall? How much of this game, the preparation? Because Sean kept talking about the preparation over the bye week for this football game, and they came out as flat as they did. Caleb came out with nerves, throwing the ball all over the place without ever hitting a receiver. How much of that is Shane Waldron's fault? The way they started that football game on offense, man.
like I said, man, if you're Cliff Kingsbury and you come out and you say, I want to get my young quarterback comfortable, I'm gonna give him the first read. I'm gonna give him a first read throw, and he's gonna make that throw. It's gonna continue to get him in a rhythm. Those throws that Caleb was missing, there was nerves there. That'll be the only time. It's the first time he goes back home to play a football game. And now that that's out of the way, he's got that out of his system, and he started to get it out of his system in that game. But you have to understand that the potential for that exists. The situational awareness of this coaching staff is concerning to me, because Shane Waldron should have understood that potential for that to happen existed, and he should have said, let me do what I can to make it as easy as possible on my rookie quarterback to start this game. And instead of that, he had him dropping back and going through multiple reads and holding on to the ball for an extended period of time with an offensive line that is questionable,
Well, Dustin,
man. That's
Dustin,
questionable decision making.
how much of going through multiple reads is a quarterback's responsibility versus a coach? Like if he's telling Caleb throwing the first read and Caleb doesn't see it, Caleb's going to make other reads. That's the beauty of Caleb Williams. Is if
For
the
sure,
first
it's
read doesn't
the
work,
beauty and it's the terror. It's both. It can be both. But I mean, it is on the coach to say, these are our first 15 plays of the game, and this is how I want you to hit it. This is how I want you to approach it. If I firmly believe this, Brandon, if they had preached for the entire week of practice leading into that game, we want the ball out fast, quick throws. Caleb Williams is not going to go against that. If it was there and that's how it was designed,
but what is the difference?
Executed that game plan.
What is the difference in that football game? And it was probably at least 3 or 4 throws, man, early in that game. First 2 drives that Caleb missed. What's the difference in that game if he's making those throws early in that game coming out? Like, do we already take Washington? Do we already put Washington on their heels?
I mean, regardless of anything, if he completes some of those,
does DeAndre Swift explode after you complete those first? Because they were big plays, man. I mean, Caleb missed like a 15-yarder, like an 18. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but they were like between 10 and 20-yard passes that he missed.
Let me say this, man. Let me say this. This team, everyone continues to say it, and it's the truth. They were built from the outside in, right? Which is the opposite of how
I've been saying this to you for years.
Now I'm going to make a point off of this on what you're talking about with Shane Waldron, because Shane Waldron is approaching the game plan from the outside in. It's supposed to be from the inside out. You establish the run, and then that opens up the pass game. You run until they show you they could stop it, which they never really did in that game, and they probably won't do in this game. Honestly, DeAndre Swift might have a couple of plays where you're like, oh, he just ran straight into the defensive line. He'll have a couple of those in a row, but then he's going to break one.
No, I agree with you,
yards,
Dustin. And
right?
Michael Strahan said during one of those, you know how he's on that panel on Sunday?
Yeah, on Fox.
I think he was talking about the Bengals, and he said there are teams who throw to establish their run. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think that's Waldron was. That's who Waldron was in Seattle, right?
Yeah,
he was. Wasn't it like 54% pass, 46% run?
Let me tell you this: Chicago's rush play percentage is 45.19% on the season, and on the road that goes down to 41.7%. So damn near 60% of the time on the road they are passing the football, and that's just backwards to me, man. It should be flipped the other way.
I think it was 54% in Seattle, man.
Yeah,
I think it was 54-46 his last year in Seattle.
I don't have those in front of me. I just know that the way this team was built was from the outside in, and that's the way Waldron is executing his offensive game plan in these games, and I think it needs to be the opposite. That's the point I really want to make with what you're talking about.
So, with the injuries the Bears have in their secondary and in their offensive line primarily, where are the strengths the Bears have on offense and defense against this team? Well, let me ask you this. The offensive line is obviously majorly concerned. We've gone over that. How concerned are you for defensive injuries?
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned, man. I mean, listen, the Cardinals are giving up 25.6 points per game. So, I mean, that's a concerning stat if you're talking about, going into this game. And in terms of their points per play given up, it's 0.405. It's 24th in the league. So they give up points, and they're giving up 376 yards per game, man. That's 27th in the league. So the Cardinals can be exploited on defense. Defensively, their secondary is not very good. You can pass on them. And like I said, they're giving up 4.6 yards per play. So there are things that show in them in the Cardinals that the Bears can exploit. But it really, to me, comes down to how do the Bears approach this game? Do they continue to approach it with a 60-40 pass to run ratio? Because if they do that, they won't win. They won't win. That's how I feel. So it's like, what's there to exploit? Their defensive line is not very good, right? I mean, they got Zaven Collins. He's a guy who can get after the quarterback, but Mac Wilson is a solid middle linebacker in my mind. So, I mean, they have some solid players on defense, but nothing to write home about, man. This Bears offense should be able to take advantage of them, but to me, it comes down to philosophy. How do you approach it? Do you establish the run? Do you make that a point of emphasis? And then that opens up the other parts of your offense that can really get you downfield with one or two plays. You know what I'm saying? Like, and here's the reality: DeAndre Swift can get you down the field with one play on any given play. DeAndre Swift can't. And if you have a banged up offensive line, you should be thinking about running the football, because that's what's going to be easiest on your offensive line, and it's going to make the game easier on your quarterback, man.
I agree with you there for sure. If your offensive line is going to be depleted, you've got to be a run-first approach team.
Now the question is, does Shane Waldron understand that?
No matter who you are, really.
He better, right?
No matter what team you are in the NFL, if your offensive line is banged up, you have got to run the ball first and foremost, for sure. Yeah, and I think, like you said, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think Sweat is something that I'm going to pay close attention to, because that's a player I feel the Bears need. But when it comes to Brisker and Gordon being out again, after the way they handled Washington's first-ranked offense, I'm not too concerned about the defensive injuries. I think if they're letting these guys rest up while still playing the football they are, I'm all right with that. You know what I mean?
The matchup for Sweat is Kelvin Beachum at right tackle. Kelvin Beachum has been in the league for a long time. I mean, he's a pro, but he's not very good. He's always just been kind of average. He's a guy that Montez Sweat can exploit, I think, if Montez Sweat is healthy, because he was out at the end of that game and he's limited today. So I mean, like, he's definitely not 100%. He's definitely not. So.
I think Daryl Taylor is going to make a difference in this game. I don't know why I feel that, man. I really have nothing to back that up.
I mean, he's an NFC. He was in the NFC West. Maybe he has some insight to playing the Cardinals multiple times per year. Maybe he has some insights to that team. I don't know. What I do know is that Paris Johnson is the left tackle for that Cardinals team, and he's a monster. And that's the guy that Daryl Taylor's going to have to be getting by. So, I mean, like that, I don't know how much I would go out on a limb to predict a big game from Taylor, to be honest. But, like, it'd be nice. I'd love to see it, man. I hadn't really given that much thought, so.
Yeah, so is there a place on the Bears' defense that this offense can exploit? And I actually do believe there is.
I mean,
we've talked about it on this show before.
Go ahead.
No, not even the secondary. Me and you talked on the bare minimum prior to the Jaguars game that Evan Ingram might have an impact.
And he did. Yeah.
We haven't seen this Bears team play a quality tight end. And he had like 10 catches for 100 yards or something, 9 catches for 110 yards.
Zach Ertz had a really good game against the Bears too. He did. He was active.
Now we're facing a guy that's, if not leading the position, probably in the top 3. And it just coming off a monster week, man. Trey McBride is a problem, I think, for this Bears defense.
Okay. A problem to what too? A problem to making an impact on whether or not the Bears win or lose, do you think? Because I think Evan Ingram was a guy that the Bears just gave those. I think they were like, we're going to take away your deep passing game, and Evan Ingram ate in the middle because of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think McBride's somebody you got to be aware of. I mean, I think,
of course,
Marvin Harrison. Really no, I don't just mean that. I mean, like, Marvin Harrison is going to be locked. Like, I still love Tyree Stevenson, guys, and it looks like he's not getting any kind of suspension. He's going to keep playing football. Between Jalen Johnson and Stevenson, Marvin Harrison is not somebody that I'm going to be too worried about.
Here, I'll guarantee you this. Marvin Harrison is going to – Tyree Stevenson is going to see a shit ton of Marvin Harrison Jr. on Sunday. Yeah. It's not going to be a lot of Jalen Johnson.
And he might get beat.
He will. He will. There is a play every game. And listen, you can't take on the best athletes in football consistently week to week and not get beat, man. You're going to get beat. I mean, but he's also going to make some plays, Tyree Stevenson will. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is a guy that, I mean, he has 5 touchdowns on the season. He's having a pretty solid rookie season for all the it came out how he came out. You know, he came out kind of flat, but I mean, he's come on in the last few weeks, man, and he's a damn good receiver. So between him and McBride, that's going to be a tough matchup to handle for the Bears, especially given the weaknesses they have in the secondary right now with Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker not being in the game. That's a huge concern. This secondary, and that's why I said the secondary, because they have the injuries there. They got, backups in key roles right now, and they're just not as good as the guys that would be starting if they were healthy. So that's a concern. And then you talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison on the outside and Trey McBride in the middle of the field. I'm concerned about that for sure. And Kyler Murray is a guy that he moves around a lot in the pocket, man. That's the thing that's going to be huge in this game. Can you contain Kyler Murray into the pocket? Can you not let him get outside? Because he does not take sacks, Brandon. That's a huge thing for the Cardinals this year. Kyler Murray does not take sacks. So if you can't get after him and pressure him, then it's going to be a long fucking day. It's going to be a long day. He
also has 11 passing touchdowns, which is, he's not leading the league, but this is one thing that the Arizona Cardinals are doing well. I believe it's one of the categories in which they're leading their opponents, right?
Well, here, just to kind of put a bow on what I was talking about with the sack percentage. No, here. The Bears QB is sacked at an 8.98% rate. That's 27th in the league. They allow a lot of sacks. The Cardinals QB, Kyler Murray, is sacked at a 4.53%. That's half, damn near half. That's number 3 in the league. He does not get sacked. He moves around a lot. So you have to maybe on getting to him. You focus a lot more on keeping him contained in the pocket, man. That's going to be a huge key to this game. But yeah, he throws touchdowns, but a lot of it comes from him getting on the move, man, because he's a smaller guy standing there in the pocket, seeing over the offensive line. That makes the game harder on him. If he gets on the outside where he's got a clear side of vision to get to that receiver, that's a lot easier.
He's a prolific runner, man. He's an established running quarterback in the NFL. He's one of those guys that you have to. He's not the same athlete as Jaden Daniels, but he poses the same threat, no doubt.
No, yeah, he's not the same athlete because
they're very different
in terms of size. It's really what it comes down to.
They're very different.
Kyler Murray can scoop.
And to be honest with you, man, Kyler Murray is probably better off taking a hit than Jaden Daniels.
He's a swole little bastard, Kyler Murray.
To be honest, yeah. Jaden Daniels is a tall guy, but he's not big by any means. So if
I'm the Bears, I'm focusing on maintaining my pass rush lanes and not getting beyond Kyler Murray to where he can step up and run outside from the pocket, man. You have to make it to where he cannot get to the edges and because he can take off or he can throw it from there. Keep him in the pocket, make him beat you with the pass. He's gonna make some mistakes. He's got a hell of an arm, but he'll make some mistakes.
On third down, man, you got to cover Trey McBride. Let's just make sure.
Yeah, for sure. He'll move the sticks on you. And Marvin Harrison will make a big play down the field on you. So they have some good complementary weapons to take care of all levels of the field.
And James Conner.
We haven't mentioned James Conner yet. We haven't mentioned James Conner yet. I was just thinking the same thing. So it's like, and they're rushing the Bears
rush defense is getting better.
So Chicago's allowing 120 yards per game rushing. But if you that's 14th in the league versus where they were a few weeks ago. Yeah.
If you were to take like their last 3 weeks, they're like 4th in the league, probably.
Yeah, they're doing a lot better. But the Cardinals are averaging 141.8 rush yards per game. That's 7th in the league. They run the football well. They do. And I mean, you got Connor and you got Benson, right? Is he? So I mean, they have a solid group of running backs.
I think Demercado plays.
Yeah, they got Demercado, so they got a good stable of running backs, man. So they can keep fresh legs out there too. The Cardinals are an interesting team, man. You've mentioned it before we got on here. Like,
they're just so like they're 4-4. They're 4-4, and it kind of explains who they are as a football team because like. They don't do anything phenomenally, and they don't suck at anything more than everybody else. They just kind of do everything even keel. Like it's just all pretty. They're not too high or below the average line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you can look at those averages, and I mentioned this to you. You can look at those averages and say they come out kind of average, but like from week to week, like they could be a really bad team. Or they can be a really explosive.
And I want to say this, man. This is something I for sure want to mention tonight on this show, guys. The Cardinals remind me of the Bears and their resiliency. Every time I'm watching them scroll across the bottom of my screen, I'm thinking to myself, there they go, shitting again. You know what I mean? And then the final score rolls across the screen an hour later, and the Cardinals won the game. So this team has come back, I know, at least twice this year from some pretty big deficits. So you got to watch. And the Bears just lost to a team that came back from a deficit with 25 seconds left. You know what I mean? So
that one's a little harder to gauge because the Bears were at the deficit the entire game. The Bears really shouldn't have been in it, and they took the lead very late in the game. I don't know if this Bears defense with a lead is going to give up that lead in like a traditional sense. A Hail Mary.
No. That's why we all wish to play before the Hail Mary. They just played some defense because
man.
They don't get beat. So
if the Bears have a 17-7 lead in the third quarter, I think that's something they can maintain. You know what I'm saying? I think that they can shut down this Cardinals offense if they need to, because this Bears defense is just incredible. The fact that their red zone scoring percentage against is just insanely low. They don't let teams
46%, isn't it?
No, 36.84. It's number one in the league, dude. Number one in the league. The team score touchdowns on 36.84. Now, the Cardinals offense scores on 59% of their trips into the red zone. They score touchdowns. So they're pretty good at that. But what I did want to point out with the Bears red zone scoring is, as good as it is, it's at 68.42%. It's number one, number two in the league. Number two in the league for the Bears. That goes up to 80% on the road, Brandon. The Bears score touchdowns on 80% of their red zone trips on the road. And the Cardinals are they're allowing opponents to score touchdowns on 55% of their red zone trips, right? And that number gets worse for them at home. The Cardinals allow 63.64% of their red zone trips to be touchdowns at home. So that's a number, if you're talking about a road home split,
that's a win.
That's a number that really plays in the favor of the Bears, man. The Bears score touchdowns consistently, and the Cardinals get on the road, and the Cardinals get a lot worse at defending the red zone at home. So that's a pretty awesome stat, I thought, in terms of how this game could play out. I think it'll play a big role in this game, the red zone scoring, man.
Yeah, and Torrey Taylor's going to have a big thing to say, a lot to say about that. You know what I mean? Torrey Taylor's
in terms of the field position, to
make sure that they're not in the red zone on any possession. You know what I mean?
It'll make it. Hopefully, it makes it harder. And here's the thing. Hopefully, we don't see a lot of Torrey Taylor, but when we do see him, hopefully he continues to perform the way he's performed and giving this defense an advantage, backing up those offenses. This Bears defense is giving up 17 points per game. That goes up to 18.5 on the road. So that's a minimal thing, right? Like the Bears, our defense travels. It's good no matter where it goes. The concern to me, man, becomes with this Bears defense, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. We keep talking about, I call them John Wick last week, in terms of they don't die. Like, you keep thinking that they're that they're gonna get beat, and they stand on their heads again and stop a team. But with these injuries and just how much they're spending time on the field having to be heroes, do they eventually break, Brandon? In terms of, it's this bend but don't break defense. When does that other shoe drop and this defense breaks because the offense is not holding up its end of the bargain?
I don't think it's gonna, Dustin.
So it's not really it's not really a legitimate question in your mind.
I think it's gonna be a top 5 unit in the NFL all year, and I think the Bears offense is gonna get better.
It's a concern to me, man. It is. It's something I think about when it comes to this Bears team. It's like you can only ask so much of any individual or any group, and it's like they're asking a whole lot of this defense, and eventually it's not going to hold up. Though at least there'll be a game where they just get tired.
But Dustin, you have these hiccups. Like, this Bears offense just kind of ran people over for the last couple weeks prior to this game in Washington, and I think at some juncture that's going to be more normal than not. I think this, man, it's so strange to say it, but it's kind of like the way we approach this season. I think so much relies on Caleb Williams, because I think the nerves he came out with in that game, and I think the way the game was called obviously didn't help him, but Swift should have been early and often. But Caleb Williams is going to get to a point where he's just going to beat people up. I truthfully believe that. I think we have a quarterback who's going to do that eventually. When does that occur? Does that occur at the end of this season?
This week, hopefully.
Does that occur next season when they do draft some? When you're probably going to have 3 new offensive linemen on this team next year. Is that when Caleb becomes Caleb?
So are you saying that
we all know he's capable of it? You know what I mean?
So are you saying that you don't think that will happen to this Bears defense because you expect this offense to start carrying its own water in these games?
Yeah.
In this season?
I do.
Okay. And staying on the defense.
I expect the average points per game of our offense on the road to increase. Caleb is young. How many road games have the Bears played?
Oh, 3. They're 0-3 on them, right?
Yeah. And we'll say
Colts,
I think
Texans, and
I think they're 1-3
Commanders.
because he won in London.
Yeah, I count that as a road game for sure.
But I think Caleb's gonna right that ship. I do. I think the woes that this team has had for the last few years under Matty Eberflus on the road, I think Caleb Williams will be the difference that changes that.
It's a big thing to have to overcome because Eberflus's record on the road is not good. It's just not good.
Of course.
And you do need that from your rookie quarterback, but that's also kind of scary in and of itself, Brandon. That's kind of scary in and of itself.
But when
you're counting on a rookie, you just said you're counting on a rookie quarterback to overcome a coach's deficiencies is basically what you just said. That's kind of scary too.
At the same time, and you're saying you don't think Eberflus could be fired this season. I would imagine that's because Poles feels confident.
I guarantee you he won't be. I guarantee you he won't. It's not even a question.
Poles feels confident in the quarterback he drafted.
Well, again, we can keep going down that road. That's ass backwards. It just is. If your GM is making the decisions like that,
so is this organization. Dude, our GM hired our president. Like, that's kind of how this organization works, right?
Yep. Or man, it's yeah. We've talked about that before. A lot of what happens with this team is ass backwards, but like I just find it disconcerting that we would be counting on a rookie quarterback to be the difference on a coach's road record. It's just that's a lot to put your faith in, for a guy who's still learning.
I've said this on this show. I've said this on House I'll Hangover. I've said this on CSP. I think your expectations and even aspirations of this season, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, are based heavily upon how good you think Caleb Williams is.
Yeah, he's shown.
I think you
some
either
ups
think
and downs, man. I
think you either think he sucks because a lot of guys do, and I don't know if that's just
he clearly doesn't suck.
Right, I don't know if that's just trolling. I don't know if that's just trolling.
That is. That's not a real conversation.
But then you have the guys who think he's just a product of this team. Like, if the coaching staff sucks, he sucks. Then you have the people who think he's good enough to be good on any team with any coach
overcome
because that's just how good he's going to be. And I believe that's who he is. I just want to see it like this year, because
I think we have in some spots.
What happened Sunday against Washington? You can't see those things, man. It's too late now. Like, you know what I mean? We saw it against Tennessee.
Well, Brandon, here the reality is, man, you've seen those moments from him where he is that good, but you've also seen moments from him where he was bad and he's throwing interceptions.
Hold on, man.
So like you're gonna see both continually through this season. You're gonna see both. That's why it's concerning.
Hold on.
All of that on him. That's why it's concerning.
Tennessee and the Washington game, to me, if you ask me, man, both those games were the trends that I saw were nerves. Because Caleb Williams can throw a football, Dustin. I saw nerves. I saw bad throws. I saw receivers not able to catch the pass that Caleb Williams was throwing, but receivers open, which is Caleb. You know what I mean? Like open receivers not able to catch passes. That's on your quarterback, Caleb Williams. What's going on, Amas? Hell yeah. Thanks for joining us, bro. Get in this conversation. I think Caleb during the Tennessee game, during the Washington games, was nerves. If Caleb can get rid of that, if that can become a thing moving forward for the rest of this season, you know what I mean? If like we saw the homecoming game, we saw the season opener. Those are two big moments in Caleb Williams' career. If the rest of this season, if the rest of the schedule is just normalcy,
Brandon, there are gonna be more big moments though.
Oh, yeah, we know that.
I'm not saying Caleb Williams can't do what you're saying, but you have to acknowledge the fact that there will be downs with the ups. And if you're counting on him to carry your team through those downs and ups, that your team is going to go up and down, bro. It's just going, that's just logical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like what the Texans did last year.
Yeah, exactly. And the Texans made the playoffs. So like we're hoping to see that developmental curve get tighter and tighter. And then it leads to enough wins that we can get into the playoffs and build on some positive momentum going into the following year. You know, that's what I'm hoping for as a Bears fan. I'm not hoping for the sky and the moon, but at the same time, the coaching needs to be better to help your rookie quarterback. It can't be the rookie quarterback that's overcoming coaching deficiencies the entire season. If you're counting on that, you're counting on a losing formula, man, as far as I'm concerned. So I hear what you're saying, but like I can't put all my hopes.
It's not so much counting on it as just thinking it's going to be a thing that develops on its own, man. Like,
okay.
I
That's
don't,
fair enough.
I don't think the Bears
it's gonna have some bad results some weeks.
I don't think the Bears are holding that expectation over Caleb Williams. I personally think that's how good he is. And here's the
that's
thing
fair.
Here's the thing about Caleb, man. You can be a really good athlete. Most quarterbacks drafted today are good athletes, man. I mean, honestly, like Bo Nix has shown you that he's a really, really above average athlete. And it's like Caleb's just smart. So I think his development, I think getting rid of the bad things, the bad habits like the nerves, the interceptions, the errant throws, those things. I think a guy who's smart develops faster than a guy who's just pure athletic talent, like Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
That's what I think Caleb, by the end of this season, Caleb's going to be playing really clean football.
Okay. And I agree, man. I think so, but I just still think you'll see the ups and downs. It's bound to happen with a rookie quarterback, man. And I mean, focusing on this game, because I really do feel that this is the most pivotal game of the season for the Bears. They're going to go one direction or the other from this game, especially after the loss they just had.
I think it's like, what is that? I think it's 77 and like.
No, if they win, it's 71%. If they lose, it's 44% playoffs.
44, yeah.
Yep. So it's and you're seeing all that going across social media. It's an important week for the Bears, but it's more so important. Huh?
The next two games are must wins.
Yeah, no, and it's more so important this week, especially because you have to get the taste of this loss out of your mouth. You have to move. You need a palate cleanser.
No. And Dustin, we talked about this on CSP on Monday. How do you respond to such a, not just a loss, but
it's going to say a lot about this team.
Such a painful loss.
Yeah, it could stick with you. That could stick with you.
Actually, man, I want to say this. I didn't say this during the Bears news, our Bears news segment, but like the best thing I heard all week from any Bears player, and we have heard from a lot of them, right? I mean, you've heard from just about every player on this team. TJ Edwards said, what was his exact? It was like, this isn't the end all be all, like, or no, he said the sky is not falling. I was in a Super Bowl. I forget the speech that he gave, man, but it was like, it basically like I was in a Super Bowl and we were down. You know what I mean? Like, he gave a speech about like, it's not the end. Everybody's freaking out. We think that everybody says this because every other player has kind of talked about like what happened in that game, right? Sorry, man, I've lost my word, but DJ Moore.
Is there an end to this? This is not the end. I'm going to continue to go on.
DJ Moore, Caleb Williams, Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron, Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Steven, all these guys you've heard from have talked about last week, the Washington game. And Edwards was the only player who was like, we got to move on. I've been in worse positions before in my life. Like, we have to move on and play better football. That's it. And that's the most encouraging message I've heard from the Bears all week, to be honest, is can they do, because as fans, man, it's really hard for us to move on, but players have to. They have to. You don't have a choice.
Darius said it very succinctly on Monday on the CSP show. Washington beat you for one game. They beat you 1 week. You can't let them beat you the rest of the season. I loved what he said with that. You cannot let this fester in your brain and turn into bad momentum. The Bears have to come out this week and win this game. Their response is going to say a lot about who they are as a team. And I think, and I've been saying all year, they're a gritty team, they're a resilient team, and they need to show that this Sunday. Some stats that I think are important to this game in terms of Chicago on the road against Arizona. Their turnover margin, Brandon, goes down from plus 0.7 per game to negative 0.5 when they're on the road. Negative 0.5. So they're losing the turnover battle on the road. They have to win. You say it every week. It's a simple thing in football. If you win the turnover battle, you're probably putting yourself in a position to win that game. So the Bears have got to get a couple of them, and they can't turn the ball over. If they do that, they'll have a good path to success. But it's not a convincing thing when you see that they lose over damn near a point, damn near a turnover a game, just going on the road, man. So that's concerning. Do you think that they can win the turnover battle in this game?
Yeah, I do, because I think their offense for the last 4 weeks, between the Kramer fumble and Caleb's interception against Jacksonville, I think that's the only 2 turnovers in the last 4 weeks, right? Between the Rams, or in the last 3 weeks, between the Rams, Jaguars,
Panthers and the Commanders, that's 4 weeks. You're talking about 4 weeks there.
4 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? 2 turnovers in 4 weeks, right?
I don't have those exact stats in front of me. They've done a good job.
I said this on the House All Hangover. I don't.
They did a good job in that game on Sunday.
I think this Bears team. I think this Bears offense is going to be a team that limits turnovers moving forward.
Okay.
I do. I mean, where do you think Caleb Williams falls in interceptions for the remainder of this season?
I think he's got a good chance to have, 15 interceptions by the time this season ends. And he could be towards the top of the leaderboard in that category. And I mean, when you're asking him to throw as much as they're asking him to throw, I think that's something you got to expect. That's what it goes back to me. Does Waldron embrace the run? Do we need to flip that number? It can't be 45% run and 55% pass. It needs to be 55% run and 45% pass while this quarterback, because you said he's got some big moments out of the way. There's more big moments coming, man. These games are not going to get easier, and you're in a division that's going to be tight as shit all the way down the line, and you need to stay competitive in it. This game this Sunday is a huge moment for Caleb Williams, because it's going to go a long way in determining if he makes the playoffs his first season as a quarterback. So I think that he takes chances. And the more opportunity you give him to take those chances, he's going to naturally be who he is, and that will lead to some turnovers, man. That will lead to some interceptions. That will lead to some strip sacks from him holding the ball, trying to make a play down the field. That's why I think it's critical that they get the quick passing game going. That's how they come out in this game. Run the ball, quick passes, one read, get it out of his hands, get him in rhythm. That's what I think. That's what I think.
I agree with you, man. I mean, I would imagine if somebody made a graph of when DeAndre Swift gets plus amount of snaps, plus amount of touches in a game, the Bears win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there should be a stat out there like that. I haven't seen one, but yeah.
Swift is the thing
he's the key to this offense.
That unlocks this all. Yeah, no, literally. As I say unlocks, you say key, because that's just the honest to God truth, man. I mean, if this guy is involved and heavily, because he had a 50-yard touchdown last week and then didn't touch the ball in the next drive. If you're utilizing him, he can make the difference.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying since week one, man. The first couple of weeks, everybody was super down on DeAndre Swift, but he wasn't getting the opportunities in space. And you also have to remember that you could have 5 plays where he might gain 5 yards. So be it. The 6th play could be the one where he gains 55 yards.
I'm gonna say this in defense to DeAndre.
Then his average looks a lot better.
And you're gonna tell me to not go too deep into this, because you know how I get. I'm gonna say this in defense of DeAndre Swift. Nate Davis was DeAndre Swift's problem. Okay. I truthfully believe that. I for the first 2 weeks.
He might be on the football field this Sunday, according to you. Yeah. So what's that say?
It says bad things, Dustin.
Another stat that is interesting to me going into this game. Chicago has an average score margin of plus 6.3 at home. That drops to plus 1.3 on the road, man. Plus 1.3. They play a lot closer games on the road. That could be telling in terms of how this game plays out on Sunday. Not saying they don't win, but if they do, the odds are it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a close game.
So what is it, man? What's the score?
Couple more stats I got real quick because these are important, I think, to this game. Their third down conversion percentage actually goes up on the road, Brandon, from 32.98 to 36%. That's still shitty, but it's an improvement, okay? Arizona allows a third down conversion rate of 52%. Bottom five in the league.
Yeah.
52% of their third downs that their opponents have, they convert on. So that could go a long way in deciding this game. Do the Bears step up and do something that they haven't done very well, convert on third down to keep the time of possession, keep the ball in their hands, and keep that defense fresh? Because the defense is going to be important in this game. And then going into that, Bears time of possession goes up from 50.6% to 51.93% on the road. So they're controlling the clock and more than the opponent in either scenario. The Cardinals time of possession at home is 46.87%. So the Bears should control this game and have the ball on offense for longer than the Cardinals. If these stats ring true and that's how it plays out, the Bears will win the time of possession battle, and that should be a place that they win this game. One more that I think is really important. The Cardinals are one of the least penalized teams in the league, especially at home, only 4 penalties per game. Now, the Bears' opponents average 7.4 penalties per game, and on the road, that number goes up to 8.5. So the Bears' opponents averaging 8.5 penalties per game on the road. The Cardinals are only averaging 4 for themselves. So which one of those plays out? Do the Bears draw more penalties on the Cardinals than what they normally accrue? Because that'll be a huge thing. And also, do the Bears repeat and have from this past week and have 4 pre-snap penalties and 8 total penalties? The Bears, if they can win that, that's going to go a long way, especially with a team like the Cardinals, Brandon, that you said, they hang around. They get back in games. They're resilient. Penalties, like a defensive holding penalty that gives them a first down when they should have been off the field. Those things can swing games, man. And it could swing the game in the Cardinals' favor or it could swing the game in the Bears' favor. So I just wanted to get those things out there because something's got to give with some of these stats, man. And the Bears are going to have to take, I think. The Bears are going to have to take.
No, I agree with you, man. I think this game's going to be determined. I don't know, man. It is going to be determined in the red zone.
Yes.
You have to when the Bears can't settle for field goals in this game, and
the Bears don't settle for field goals on the road. They score touchdowns on 80% of their red zone.
That's what I'm saying. That needs to hold true, and
they have to get there. They have to get to
I think you have one of the most important parts of this game is you got to come out strong. You got to come out strong. You got to come out offensively and pose a threat. You have to pose some sort of threat.
Get the good juices flowing, man. Get the good juices flowing early.
Well, just start to dominate your will as early as you possibly can.
Impose your will. Yeah, impose your will. Yes, and if I have my 2 cents, I would run 60% of the time I'm on offense in this game because that's how you impose your will. And if the Bears do that, I think they win. And if they come out and they throw it on 60% of their plays, then they're putting themselves in a position to lose a game that they should win. Like we just said, man, Bears win this game, 71% chance of playoffs. They lose it, 44% chance. That's a fucking 30% swing, guys. This game is huge.
The next 2 games, really.
Yeah, for sure. But it starts here. Again, recovering from that loss and getting it out of your system. Matty Eberflus would love nothing more than to get a win and get everyone to shut the fuck up about him losing his locker room.
Right here is the definition. This is the definition of adversity. Right here, right now. It really is. Because how more adverse does it get after following that loss last week, man? I mean, that is a gut punch. And think about this, man. You, as a fan, you think about that game and it hurts. It physically hurts. It makes you uncomfortable mentally.
Imagine being a player in that.
Yes, no matter what the coaches feel, if they did things right, if that's how
Yeah.
they truthfully feel, if they really do buy their own bullshit, they think they did things right. The players don't feel that way. They don't feel like they played the game the way they should have. You know what I mean? The
They didn't
players don't feel
execute
in
the
the
way
way.
they should have.
They
No.
they they feel like the last play. The offense feels like shit for the first three quarters, and the defense feels like shit for the final play. So like these players are going to want to get better and make those things correct those wrong, right those wrongs, I should say.
Yeah.
So I mean that, and hopefully you just hope, man, a winning culture within your locker room, because they said coaches really aren't don't hold a place in the locker room. If the winning culture in the locker room can overcome the coaching staff, games like the ones you're talking about now, that could be the difference. You know what I mean?
This is going to decide what direction the Bears go. This game will decide that, not just for playoffs, but in terms of competitiveness, just in terms of how they compete for the rest of this season. Are you going to man up and just beat the hell out of this team and make a statement, or are you going to lose this game and let these doubts continue to creep into your locker room, into your heads, into your culture, man? Like, it's just a huge fucking game. The results of this game will determine a lot for the Bears for this season, man. And like we said, man, if you mentioned the next 2 weeks, if they beat the Cardinals this week and go to 6-3, or sorry, 5-3, and then they beat the Patriots the following week and go to 6-3, now you got 8 games where you need to get, I think, 4 wins to feel comfortable to have a shot at the playoffs, man. So you can go 4-4 that second half of the season and still be okay. Now, if you lose this next game and you sit at 500 going against the Patriots, it's just a whole different mentality, man. 2 games over 500 versus sitting at 500 in this NFC North. Fuck, dude. Fuck. I'm dreading seeing another flat performance from this Bears offense. I'm dreading it. I really am. And if that
So,
happens, it's going to be a problem.
so what's your game prediction here, Neil?
Ah, shit, dude. Honestly, I haven't had one up until this point. I haven't thought about it. I haven't put it on paper. I'm looking at these stats, and the Bears opponents score 18.5 on the road. They score 17 a game. All right. They're plus 6.3 at home versus plus 1.3 on the road. This is going to be a close game. The Bears offensive line woes and the injury concerns for 2 of our starting offensive linemen and our primary backup left tackle, those are concerning too, man. But the Bears, like we just went through all this and said the Bears have to win this game. So there's no way I'm picking them to lose. I think it's Bears 21, Cardinals 17.
No shit. That's my game prediction.
It's a wire game.
21-17. Yeah.
What's that?
21-17 was what I was going to say.
Oh, I stole it from you. So you got to pick something different, or are you just going to go with yours? That's what it is.
No,
right?
no, the bare minimum. If that hits, that's. I mean, we're kind of that way, man. Right?
Yeah.
We kind of
In
think.
what way? I'm sorry. What way? What do you mean?
You and I kind of have similar.
Okay. Yeah. We're usually pretty close in terms of our predictions. I will say this, man. I am wary of making this prediction, and I'm only doing it because I want the Bears to win, because they have to win to have a shot to keep their season alive for the playoffs, as far as I'm concerned. Like, this is a do or die game, guys. You didn't think when you were looking at this schedule, Brandon, fucking week 9 in Arizona, or sorry, week 10, whatever it is, in Arizona was going to be the make or break game for this Bears team. I don't think you thought that when you looked at the schedule when it came out.
Well, I had them at 7-2 after the Patriots game. So if they're 6-3, I mean 6-3 with a rookie quarterback, man.
Again, well, we gotta get through this week, and we gotta get through the next week to get to that 6-3. Right now, they're 4-3, and they're one game away from being a 500 football team in an NFC full of 500 football teams.
I had 21-17 too. I think the Bears are able to score points against this Cardinals team, and I think
that defense can be exploited. I agree,
and I think that the Cardinals do what most teams have done against the Bears, somewhere between, I don't know, 13 to 20 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It could very well be 21-20. It could very well be that. The defense of this Cardinals team can be exploited, but the Bears offense is its own worst enemy, dude. If they don't come out with the right game plan and with the willingness to commit to the run,
I'm
it'll
going to
go
say
bad.
this, and I
Go bad.
shouldn't, but I'm going to say this because I still believe that it's sustainable. I think the Bears for sure take the ball away in this game, strictly based on the fact that they didn't last week.
Okay.
I think this defense.
Yeah, they're capable of it for sure.
I think this defense, they're built on taking the ball away. They didn't last week. It's probably the first time in I don't know how many weeks, but I think they take the ball away. I don't know if it's going to be via means of interceptions or fumbles, but.
Well, I mean, you got to think about the fact that you were playing a quarterback that's completing 75% of their passes. Like Jaden Daniels is a guy that doesn't make a lot of mistakes with the football. In terms of the Cardinals, they're completing Kyler Murray's completing 67% of his passes. That's 11th in the league. They're a team that, he's got a pretty high it's flirting with 70% there. So he's another guy that I think you're not going to be able to get him from behind and sneak up on him, I don't think, man. So it's like you got to keep him in the pocket, force him to make the plays downfield from the pocket, and hope that he tosses one up for Jalen Johnson or Tyree Stevenson for that to happen. So 21-17 is our both of our final scores. We did not discuss this. Like I said, I didn't even have a score in my head until we had this conversation. So
I did.
So yeah, that's what it's gonna be, Bears fans. 21-17, Bears win, and they got a 71% chance of the playoffs. And then in that vein, talking about the playoffs, man, I thought it was an interesting conversation we were having before we got on here in terms of what this NFC playoff picture really looks like if you're breaking down these teams right now.
It looks rough.
Is it even a possibility that you can have a 10-win NFC team not make the playoffs? Like we say, the Bears can get to 6-3 with these next two games, and then if they go 4-4 in their last in that torrid stretch of the schedule, playing all your NFC North opponents all in that span, going 4-4, that puts them at 10-6. And is there a chance that they do that and they still don't make the playoffs? That's another concern to think about. If they take care of
I think there is, man. I think you have the Packers and the Lions for sure. The Vikings are a possibility. You have
obviously, yep.
You have
so that's four potential playoff teams out of the NFC North.
The Eagles, and another reason this Commanders game was important to win was you were probably taking the Commanders you were taking them further away from contention for playoffs. And that's the team.
Well, the NFC seeding is going to be that Bears-Commanders game will have an impact on the NFC seeding.
So you have the Commanders and Eagles probably both going to make a playoff seed. Then you have
that's two teams from the NFC East. We got two teams for sure from the NFC North. That's 4 teams right now, right, Brandon? That's 4 teams right now with a potential in Minnesota.
And then the Falcons and maybe the Bucks.
I think one team from the NFC South. I don't see 2 teams from the NFC South making the playoffs. I never have.
And then right now you have
so that's 5.
The Rams, the Cardinals, the Niners, and the Seahawks. It's a toss up, and two teams could.
It's a log jam in that division right now. Yep.
2 teams could end up being good or bad. You know what I mean? Like it's so.
Listen, if the Cardinals win this game against the Bears, they're 5-4. And they're staying right on top of that.
Actually, I still think though, man. I'm going to say this after thinking through all that through my head. I think if the Bears have 10 wins, they're in the playoffs.
Listen, we just named the NFC West is full of 4-4 teams, right? And whoever wins that division is probably going to have 10 wins. So I don't think that a 9-win team in the NFC West. I don't think 2 teams are coming out of the NFC West. So you got 1 team out of the NFC West. We got the Commanders and the Eagles. I think the Eagles are just going to continue to get better. That's 2 teams out of the NFC East. We got 2 for sure teams in the Packers and the Lions. And honestly, I don't want to call the Packers a for sure thing because I feel like that's a team that could keep the Bears out of the playoffs. The Bears are going to have to beat the Packers in order to have a chance at the playoffs. They're going to have to.
Get this too, man. The last games, the very last week of the season, the Bears play the Packers the Lions play the Vikings. Those
That
both those games could
will
have
determine playoff
implications
seeding.
on
Yeah,
who goes to the playoffs
yeah,
because
man.
the Bears might be relying on the Lions to beat that Vikings team on the last game of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And one good thing
Make the
about this
playoffs.
this Sunday is that the Lions are playing the Packers, so we are going to get a divisional loss. At least one of them for sure. And the Vikings are playing the Colts on Sunday Night Football. So I mean, and the Colts are starting Joe Flacco, which could have an impact on that game because the Colts are a much better team when Joe Flacco plays quarterback for them. That's as obvious as day. I can't believe it took them that long to make that decision. When a guy is, what was he like, 10 of 26 in that game, 10 of 30 in that game? Come on, Joe Flacco is at
I
least
think
going to
he
complete
ended
it.
up. I think he ended up being like 14 of 32 or
I
something.
don't think it was that good. I think you're.
No.
I think it was 10 of 32. I think it was. He is just very very bad at throwing the football. It's like he doesn't know where it's going to go when he lets it go. So it's like Flacco at least gives you a competent guy there. So hopefully the Colts are a little more competitive in this game against the Vikings. If we can get 2 losses in the NFC North this week and we get a win, then that changes things an awful lot, man. An awful lot.
Well, and if the Vikings go on a 3-game slide, if they lose this week against the Colts, that's 3 weeks. That would be like kind of writing on the wall, right?
Yeah, man, that would be huge for this Bears team because they got to get some separation in this NFC North from at least one of these teams. They have to. So I don't know, man. It is possible that a 10-win team in the NFC is good and tight as it's been.
Is that
Does
game
not
in
make the
Lambeau?
playoffs.
Is that game in Lambeau?
I'm pretty sure it is. Yes, Lions at Packers. Yes, 6-1 versus 6-2. So we can get the Packers to the best case scenario is the Lions win that game. The Packers get to 3 losses, and the Bears get that win and are at 3 losses too. You know what I'm saying? Like it just keeps the Bears closer to the middle of the pack, basically, because I don't think they're catching the Lions, man.
Well,
The Lions are really good.
it keeps the Bears closer to second place. That's what it does.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. So that's all a lot. That's so much to think about, man, in terms of how this NFC is going to play out. You know, it's just there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, and they're going to be moving all the way into the last week of the season. So every game is huge, man. You can't let that Commanders game turn into a free fall. You just can't. You gotta nip it in the bud. You gotta cut that shit off right now. You have to, and put yourself in a different direction, man. So yeah, I think we covered that, didn't we? To the extent we wanted to, and we got the Bears prediction. We do foresee a path for them to the NFC playoffs, but it's going to be a hard one, and it starts this Sunday. Do you want to get into some of our Halloween themed fun bullshit? It would have been more fun if we had people in the chat to actually throw in some suggestions. I see we got a couple people watching, so if y'all got some comments on what we're about to talk about, this could be really fun, or it could fall flat on its face, or it could be both. So we'll find out. We'll find out. What do you want to start with?
The horror films, for sure.
The horror films? All right. So like I envisioned it as like a horror film draft in terms of like what are your favorite horror movies, and then we started kind of talking about what are these characters in these movies kind of resemble across the NFL right now. So like fuck the draft. We'll just kind of talk about we'll start with an easy one to me. Halloween is the essential Halloween movie. Michael Myers is the essential slasher in my mind. And like Michael Myers doesn't die. That's his whole thing. He keeps coming back. He keeps coming back with this focus to kill this one thing in front of him and anything that gets in his way. And I mean, that just reminds me of the Chicago Bears defense, man. The Chicago Bears defense does not die. You can stab them, you can shoot them, you can set them on fire and blow them up, but they keep coming back and kicking your ass, dude. So I really think that they resemble.
Decapitate.
You can cut his. What else did they do to Michael Myers? Shoot him in both eyes, blind him, and explode him, and he still comes back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's this Bears defense to me, man. What do you think of that? You think that there's some resemblance there?
Yeah. So let's moving on. I think I think this Dallas Cowboys
We
team.
just lost our only viewer.
I think this Dallas Cowboys
Oh,
team
they're back.
is Leatherface because every game is a Texas massacre.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Mike McCarthy could wear someone's face as a mask. I could see him doing something like that. So like he could play that character. What was another good one we had? It might not be fitting after tonight's win for the Jets, but I thought kind of the Jets were like the poltergeist, man, because their entire organization is being sucked into the ground by Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's a demonic possession on them, but I mean, hey, they won tonight, 3-5. They got a chance, so we'll see if that continues to play out. But that came to mind for me. Poltergeist is a great movie, by the way. Rewatch that movie.
The Lions are Pennywise because they identify your greatest fear and then haunt you with it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. It kind of broke out there. I didn't hear what you said.
So the Lions are Pennywise because they identify your greatest fear and then they haunt you with it.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, that could be Jameson Williams one week destroying your defense, making big plays. That could be a two-headed monster at running back that is going at you all game and you can't stop him. I mean, yeah, that's a good one. I do find it interesting how you say Pennywise. Like it's like he's like a German, like Pennywise versus Pennywise. It's Pennywise. Pennywise sounds like a German stripper. Pennywise.
I'm gonna have to ask you to say Pennywise moving forward. It's an order. No, and then I think the Panthers are Chucky because nobody's afraid of them.
Yeah, like they come out at first and you're like, hey, this could be kind of scary. Then you realize they're like a foot tall and they weigh 17 pounds and you can kick them across the room. So, and that's kind of like Bryce Young too.
It's a baby panther.
Oh, what was the other one? You said the Browns are like Candyman. Why did you say the Browns were like Candyman? You said something.
I don't think we should say that.
I'm gonna say it because you say Deshaun Watson's name in the mirror 3 times and he appears behind you and dressed in only a towel. Starts rubbing your shoulders inappropriately. Yeah, now back down to 0 viewers.
yeah, I saw.
Hey, we're having fun. Nobody's been participating in the chat anyways. So, what was another one? Did we have any other ones? Oh yeah,
you didn't say your Chiefs.
The Chiefs are Freddy Krueger guys. Clearly, the colors match, and also they nightmares before they play them every week. Like half of the battle with the Chiefs is being in that team's head before they even play them. As far as I'm concerned,
the Raiders are the terrifier because nobody wants to watch it.
Everyone talks about it like it's cool, but then when it's time to actually put on the movie, nobody actually wants to sit through it. Hey, that preview looks interesting, but what about should I do the Jaguars one or should we can we go to negative viewers? Like -2.
Go ahead. Go for it.
The Jaguars are Jason Voorhees because they should have been drowned as children.
Oh, wait. The Patriots.
Oh, yeah, we got the Patriots. The Patriots are I know what you did last summer.
Yeah, because that's what their fans think.
Yeah. I know what you did last summer. You won me a Super Bowl, but now this year that ain't happening.
Yeah, because that's what their fans stand on.
Yeah. And also, like, I know what you did last summer is all about, like, something that these kids did in the past that's coming back to haunt them, and they're paying for their past discretions. And I feel like the Patriots, are fittingly going through a terrible time for their franchise because you got to pay the bill at some point with all the shit that they did with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady in terms of Spygate, Deflategate, all those things, you know. So I think that's appropriate. I know what you did last summer is not one of my favorite horror movies to watch, but it was. What's your favorite horror movie to watch, man? Like, is there one that you got to put? Are you a horror movie person in terms of like?
I
got
love
to sit
horror
down
movies.
yeah.
And you know what's crazy, man? I continuously I have this like firm belief that they just don't make good horror films anymore. But I think my favorite horror film is probably a newer one. I think the newest rendition of the first It might be my favorite, man. The first It movie of the new series.
Yeah, it's a
Might be.
fucking phenomenal movie, dude. I
Yeah.
haven't watched it this Halloween. I've been kind of focused on the Michael Myers. I watched 1, 2. I haven't gotten to 4 yet, but those movies are just
I rewatched The Conjuring.
The Conjuring is a good one. The Conjuring. Who in the NFL is Bathsheba? I can't come up with one off the top of my head for that.
Kills their child.
That's Doug Peterson. That's Doug Peterson for sure. He's killing Trevor Lawrence.
He's just killing his future. That's all he's killing.
Yeah, man. I did rewatch the original Nightmare on Elm Street the other day, and that movie is just so fucking good, dude. Like I forgot how good that movie is. Like it's ridiculous because Freddy Krueger's like running around the corner and like the girl's like right there and he's like, ah, and he can't grab her. But like it's like it's very low budget, obviously, but it's a fucking awesome movie in terms of and just in terms of how it introduces a character like Freddy Krueger, and like this dude ain't fucking around. He's gonna drag you into your bed and a bunch of blood is gonna spout out of it for about 5 minutes, man. I was watching it with my wife. She had seen it for the first time. She's like, "Oh my god, when's it gonna stop?" like there was that much blood in Johnny Depp.
It's so much.
It's so much blood. But like, yeah, I mean, guys, if you're looking for a horror movie to watch, you know, rewatch Nightmare on Elm Street, man. That movie is awesome. And I did see a new one that I thought was really cool. I sent it to you guys on the text, man. Late Night with the Devil was a really cool movie, man.
That's like the talk show one?
Yeah. It's like he's trying to save his show, and he puts a bunch of crazy, freaky shit on Halloween out, and it comes back to bite him in the ass pretty hard. Like it's like about paying the price for success, kind of, and yeah, he pays it, man. But yeah, I highly recommend that movie. I enjoyed it a lot. So your favorite is It, man, huh? Mine is Halloween, dude. The original Halloween is just.
I don't know. I don't. It's hard for me to pick a favorite, man. Honestly, I don't know.
The go-to for me is Halloween, especially on Halloween. I dive
deep into films that aren't all that popular too, man. There's a movie called The Cube that I love.
The Cube is that with Jennifer Lopez?
No.
Oh, what's the
one? The Cell. That's the
Cell. I've seen The Cube too. It's a similar movie to that, isn't it?
The Cube is like 4 people trapped inside a cube, and every room you go into has a new trap that's gonna kill you.
Oh, nice.
It's a cool movie, man. But and then that movie you told me, man, like, and I realized I had watched it before with Chris Hemsworth, Cabin in the Woods. Like,
oh my god, that's a sneaky one. Cabin in the Woods is one of the smartest horror movies ever made, dude. The way that movie starts out and what it turns into is just like, that's otherworldly in terms of just getting real creative with it, man. Like just crazy.
Yeah, and I also like the movie like The Relic, The Mimic, movies like those, man.
The Relic, I remember, that's set in Chicago, man. Tom Sizemore's drug addict. He's awesome in that.
Museum.
Yeah. I remember seeing that movie in theaters when I was a kid. It's not like I don't know if I could rewatch it now, to be honest. Have you rewatched it as recently?
Of course.
Yeah, I have not, man. But like, it's like a June bug. It's like an Ethiopian June bug that like turns into a monster in the Field Museum. And Tom Sizemore and the girl who works in the museum are the only ones that can stop it. But yeah, it's cool, man. Those ones they stick with you. You know, you just remember watching. And here, like we'll just kind of do a little parenting thing here. Like, do you let your kid? What age do you let your kids? Because when I was a kid, man, I started watching these. My grandma and my parents were showing me these movies when I was like 6, 7 years old. I started watching Jason, Halloween. Like,
No,
what's the line for that?
My kid is 6, and she's watched Jaws and Anaconda.
Okay,
Those are the two most like violent things she's seen.
those are like, or those are natural phenomena. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
and
like you're watching National
she
Geographic.
understands, and she loves animals, and she understands like that's not the reality. You know what I mean? Like
you know,
these
Yeah, I think
man-eating.
that's important. That's important to understand because, like, a lot of people can't
Oh no,
separate it.
she's seen anacondas. She loves snakes. She wants one. She wants a ball python. Like the she
Awesome,
so
but what
yeah.
I'm saying is like exposing your kids to something like that at a young age, and with context, explain to them, hey, this isn't real. These are people that this is their job to make you believe it's real, and that's the fun of it. And being able to distinguish that from reality is really important. You don't want your kid to be afraid of stuff like that for their whole lives. There's adults that don't mess with horror movies, and it's like this is just another creative way for people to express themselves. Like that's all it is. I think that's an important lesson to teach a kid. And I mean, I'm okay. I was exposed to all this shit at a very young age, and I still love it today. And I'm pretty well adjusted for the most part. So I don't know. To each their own.
Yeah,
Do what you
I
want with
think
your kid.
yeah, I think horror films, you really gotta, if you're a horror film fan, you're probably like me and Dustin, you watch everything just to find one good one out of every, what, 25 films you watch,
Yeah, yeah.
honestly.
And
And
even when they're bad,
you'll
the good
get
thing
a,
about horror movies, man, is even when they're bad, you can have a lot of fucking fun watching
yeah,
them.
like, you'll get like a
You can have a lot
Devil's
of fun.
Rejects every once in a while. You know what I mean? Just a really good film.
God, I
Like,
love that movie. We didn't mention that movie. That movie
yeah.
is insane. That is a hard. There's some hard parts to watch in that movie, man. But God, I love that movie. Rob Zombie's Halloweens were actually a lot better than people gave it credit for. I think too, man. Rob Zombie was he'll push the limits, man. But like I like what he does. I've always liked what he does.
The first Saw movie, that was a good one, man.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Carrie Elvis, how do you say? Yeah, no, those are good movies too, man. So yeah, like I don't know.
What's the one with Ben Foster and the spaceship? Pandorum?
Oh, what's that?
Pandorum?
Yeah,
Pandorum?
yeah, that was a cool movie. That isn't one of the Quaids in that too. Isn't like
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid in that too?
Dennis. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's the good Quaid.
Unless you're watching Christmas Vacation.
Listen, we got one more thing we want to get into. I feel like we beat that to death. I'm sure all one people watching and enjoyed it thoroughly. We wanted to talk about, we want to have a candy draft, guys. And here, as adults, we don't go trick-or-treating, but our kids do, and they come back with a basket full of candy. And like, honestly, I feel like I'm doing them a favor by taking some of that candy when they're sleeping because it's keeping less sugar. It's keeping all that sugar away from them. So I'm like really helping them out when I steal some candy from them overnight. But we want to have a draft on like what's your top pick for a candy that you will, when you're digging through your kid's basket while they're asleep, taking their candy, stealing candy from your children. When you're doing that, what's the number one candy you're gonna pick in terms, and we can kind of go a couple rounds here with this draft, Brandon, and like get into what's your favorite Halloween candy, basically. Where you at, boss? Brandon's taking a piss. Thanks, man. Well, we're trying to introduce the segment and just disappear. All right, I'm gonna throw it to you.
No,
What's
you
your
go
number one
first.
pick?
You go
No.
first. What's your number one pick?
My number one pick for what I would steal out of my kids' basket for of their Halloween candy is Reese's, bro. I literally got this from my kids' Halloween candy. It's a full size Reese's, bro. You come on, this is too much good stuff for me to ignore. Reese's is the first pick, always and forever for me. That's what I'm going with.
Well, I'm a big fan of like gummies.
Yeah,
Like fruit flavored stuff more than chocolate. But the thing I'd probably take out of my kid's bag if I saw it is A, because I love them, because it's my favorite candy bar because there's no chocolate, but B, because my kid probably wouldn't want them.
Candy bar with no chocolate.
Payday.
Paydays are badass.
Yeah,
That's sneaky. That's a sneaky pick. And with the second overall pick, Brandon has shocked the world by taking Payday. Payday, ladies and gentlemen. That's sneaky, man. That's sneaky good. I love me a Payday.
Hell yeah. And
yeah,
kids don't love them. I didn't love them when I was a kid, man.
Well, because they tear the shit out of the roof of your mouth when you're eating them, bro. Like those are sharp peanuts sticking out of like hard ass caramel.
Yeah. Well, and they're just kids like chocolate, man. I didn't like chocolate growing up, so like Payday was my favorite candy bar. But I am a big fan, man, of like the fruit, like the Starburst.
Listen, we got more picks, man. We got more picks.
Go ahead.
My second pick is going to be Snickers. I'm going to go with the Snickers. But if I really have my choice, I'm going to go with the peanut butter Snickers because I'm just a big fan of peanut butter and chocolate. It's basically like picking a Reese's again for the my second pick. But I'm building a strong team here, man, of Snickers and Reese's on my team so far, and you got Payday. I'm going to kick your ass. I feel pretty confident in that.
Well, my number 2 pick is Reese's.
You can't pick a pick that I already picked.
That's a rule?
Yeah, you can't. You can't draft Caleb Williams twice, bro.
All right, my second pick's gonna be Skittles, then, man.
Skittles. All right, so we got Reese's and Snickers against Payday and Skittles. Dude, I watched The Voice.
You have the popular vote, but like I like what I like, man. I don't care.
Okay, very good. You're building a team based on your preferences, so I totally respect it and understand. I was gonna say I watched The Voice because it's like one of the only things me and my wife can watch together, where like we can both just sit and watch it, like we agree on it. Snoop Dogg is on there, and it's just awesome to see Snoop Dogg on national TV making jokes about getting high in the green room. When I remember I lived in a time where parents didn't want Snoop Dogg in their kids' ears, but he eats Skittles all the time, man. So Snoop Dogg would like your team right now, I think, with the
so does Marshawn Lynch.
Marshawn Lynch, big Skittle advocate. So like you got some strong potheads in your corner with your Skittles pick. My third pick is gonna be a Twix. Twix, man. What do you mean?
Twix, I like Twix, but nowhere near top. Top 3. So right or left?
I mean, either side, I'm all in it. It's like, all right, I was gonna make a bad joke. I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I don't care which side.
I can't do much because on Halloween, man, you just don't get too much like fruit, like Sour Patch Kids and stuff like that. You just don't get a lot of that.
I actually brought candy to my work today for customers to grab when they came in. I had it in a bucket up front, and Sour Patch Kids were in that.
All right, that would be my number 3.
Sour Patch Kids, yeah. I had the big ones, like those individually wrapped Sour Patch Kids, like the giant ones. Yeah. But yeah, Sour Patch Kids are the shit. We're very opposite because like I'm more of a chocolate guy for sure when it comes to candy. You're definitely.
Well, my next one is chocolate.
Guy. Okay.
So what's your 4th round pick?
Very good. Well, maybe I'll steal it from Baby Ruth. Ruth. No?
No. Well, I mean, I love Baby Ruth, but that's no. My next is Kit Kat.
You son of a bitch. That was my next pick. I could have gone for Kit Kat and then come back for Baby Ruth because you weren't valuing the Baby Ruth at the same level I was.
You blew it because I took Kit Kat.
All right, man. Do we each get the same? Those are our picks. So you have
you have a 5th. We have one more.
We got one more. Oh man, I would have to go with. I wasn't prepared for this. We talked about doing this segment.
This is your segment.
Yeah. Probably Let's go with a fruity one. Starburst. Go with Starburst. The pink
Okay.
Starburst. Yeah.
There you go. I would take Crunch Bars for my kid.
Crunch Bars?
Yeah.
The Nestle Crunch Bar?
Yeah.
That's the gayest candy bar of all the candy bars. I can't.
We mean happy. We mean happy when we
Yes.
say that.
Yes, exactly. I'm very happy about Crunch Bars. No, why would you pick Crunch Bar? What do you like about a Crunch Bar?
The crunch.
If I want the crunch, I'm gonna go with $100,000. I'll go with $100,000 over a Crunch Bar because you got the crispy, crunchy like rice pieces in there, and you still got some. What?
I said sure.
No, you don't like $100,000? Not a fan.
It's just a very uncommon. Sure, I like $100,000. It's all right.
This guy's is an Almond Joy. If you like Almond Joy, I don't understand you. I don't understand
Go to
where
Dustin's
your taste
house
came
and
from.
pick them up. I like an Almond Joy.
If you like Almond Joy, I will stab you in the jaws. Meet me out front. I'll be the one stabbing jaws.
I like Almond Joy. I do.
That's disgusting. You're disgusting. That's an awful, awful candy bar. I don't understand the appeal of it at all. I don't get it. And then I did bring the Milk Duds because you did reference like Matt Eberflus as the Milk Duds. Like you got to chew on these things for a long time to get anything out of them, you know. So I mean,
you know what I like too, man? I like the 3-pack Gobstoppers. They're just a little circle.
Yeah,
kind of like a jawbreaker.
I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of just having it in my mouth.
What about Nerds? How do you feel about the little Nerds box?
I hate Nerds. My wife is a big fan of the Nerds clusters, like the gummy and the Nerds.
Yeah, me too. I love those.
On the outside,
the blue ones are really good. Man, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about a popcorn ball?
How do you feel about a popcorn ball?
We used to get that at Halloween when I was a kid.
Dude, the amount of weird shit we used to get on Halloween, like
juice,
like loose candies that weren't even wrapped and shit, like stuff that they're making in their house. Like you can't do that shit now, man. Like we trick or treated when it was. When you could get a razor blade.
I made this peanut butter brittle. I have some for I'm sure.
Like yeah, when they're just putting meatballs in your hand, like wedding singer. You know, when we trick or treated back in my day, shit was real. Shit was real. But no, I feel awful about a popcorn.
Is that a pubic?
Is that a what? You had to bring up popcorn balls.
Is that a pubic hair? Remind me.
God damn, dude, we've totally gone off the rails. I think we've been off the rails this entire time. I don't know that anyone should have watched this. And if you did watch it, we really appreciate you guys. We're just trying to have some fun, take a little chances because, like, you know, why not? Why not? But like, I hope you enjoyed our candy draft. I took Reese's with the first overall pick. Brandon took a payday. It was a very interesting strategy. We got our Bears predictions in. We both said 21-17. Broke down the game. And what we expect from this Bears team. And we compared Deshaun Watson to Candyman. So we've been all over the place. It's been a fun show. It's got everything you need.
This show. we crushed this show.
I don't know. The production level could have been better. We'll get there. We're moving it along, man. Guys, happy Halloween! Thank you for joining us, Brandon. Anything you want to close us out with? Because I feel like we gotta end this shit.
Well, let's give a shout out to River Street Tavern, guys.
Okay, very good. Yeah, yep. That's a sponsor. Ideal Amusement is the other sponsor.
Ideal Amusement, yeah, of course. Can't forget them.
Shout out to Sean and Kyle, the other 2 4-stars.
Yeah, you can find us guys again on Monday night, 6 o'clock, for the Halisol Hangover. And yeah, that's about it. Find me at Bears on Brand.
I'm gonna eat a piece of candy. Bears on Brand, yep. And then Mondays we're on CSP. Did you mention that?
I did not. Mondays we were on Chicago Sports Podcast Tuesdays.
Shout out to Brandon Tracks.
We don't do we don't do a candy draft on there, guys.
No. We have complete creative control of this show, and I'm still trying to figure out if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I'm having fun. We love you all for if you watch this tomorrow, thank you. If you can sit through it, we appreciate you. If you hit the like button, we'll be your friends for life. So, guys, happy Halloween. Bear down. Bears are going to get a win this week. I'm banking on it. And hopefully Monday we got a much better attitude than we did this past Monday going into our recap show of that Bears game. So again, House Hall Hangover, 6 o'clock Monday, guys. That's when you can see us again. And we appreciate all of you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.